Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Excess Exceed. I snagged another expert in my trap. Longtime viewers of the show will know that I've tricked many people into sitting down and teaching me about Exceed characters with the promises of fame and riches. This time, I have we're learning about Ryu, the season 3 sort of archetypal Shoto character, and I've got the Ryu main himself, Snake. Snake, thank you so much for being on the show with me.
Wait, there's no fame or riches after this?
You weren't supposed to hear that part.
Okay,
So let's move
well,
on quickly to any other conversation, any other topic. How's the weather? I don't know.
pretty
Um,
rainy today.
yeah, it's snowy over here. I'm so happy we're not talking about fame and riches anymore. So, as always, quick disclaimer before we get started. We're going to be talking about playing to win on this show. Exceed is broad enough that you don't have to play to win. You can play to have fun. And as a matter of fact, we encourage you to have fun because having fun is fun. You'll play longer that way. You'll learn more in the long run. Please play the way that you find enjoyable. And if the line that we're describing for Ryu is not enjoyable, please play the way that you think is cool.
Mhm.
Number two, uh, just kind of for brevity's sake on this show, people tend to talk about strategy and strategic concepts in pretty absolute terms. So you'll hear my guests say things like, always do this or never do this, or this is usually a boost, this is usually an attack, don't ever strike with this in this way. Take all that with a grain of salt. Exceed's not a solved game. I'm absolutely not an expert. Snake is an expert, but even though he's an expert, it's his opinion, however informed, is just his opinion. If you think that we're underrepresenting something, especially with a character as flexible as Ryu is, let us know. I would love to turn this into sort of a conversation. So if we're wrong, uh, it's on purpose for engagement. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And Snake,
Yeah,
I will let you take it away, and I will ask questions as we go. So just tell me about this Punch Man and what he does.
Punch Man. Well, Ryu, um, he is, I suppose he's an all-arounder, and some people call him uh, a set play character, due to his strong boosts, and sort of pretty good defensive specials. Um, Yeah. Uh, in terms of I guess talking about the absolute, when you're talking about absolutes, he's a character that I like to play because I don't tend to like, when people say this is that or this is this way
Right.
or this is a boost or you should only attack with this. And with Ryu's kit, I think it allows for a lot of flexibility, as you said, and a lot of expression and a lot of cool things that you can choose to do or choose not to do. And I think there's a ton of viable ways to play them. So
So there
um,
probably isn't going to be like people aren't going to come away from this video with like a Ryu line of play that you
right,
do every single time in order to beat your opponent. He has a toolkit, and
yeah,
you use that toolkit flexibly in order to win. That makes sense.
hmm
And as a matter of fact, on this show before, we had Bana talking about some season 5 shotos like Ragna,
hmm
who were very similar, where it was just like the answer to many of the questions I'm going to ask on this episode to you, Snake, are probably going to be
hmm
answered by "it depends" or
hmm
sometimes both are good. So, people looking for a really, really linear game plan for you might be disappointed, but hopefully that
hmm
flexibility will let you close out games.
right, yeah. I can only really speak to the tools that he has, and it's up to you really to. I mean, we can definitely go over some examples of when things are pretty good and when they're not.
Mhm.
But yeah, pretty much just use what you have when you need it. Um, so yeah, I guess starting with the his unique ability as an action, he gets to move one.
Okay.
Uh, Usually this costs a force to do, but Ryu gets to do it for free. So that's very good, and that lets you know that he can position himself in ways that allows him to. Well, this kind of plays into that defensive nature that I think he has, where he can spend his turn using his unique ability to get in a position where he can react very well to whatever you are going to do on your turn.
Right.
And he's got a couple specials that are pretty good for this. Typically, or notably, the above curve options. So he's got Shoryuken, and then a crit Hado for the 6-speed fireball.
Right. So
Mhm.
you're stepping from, for example, range 1 to range 2, or
Mhm.
range 3 to range 2 to leverage Shoryuken on your opponent's turn, or you're stepping back out of range to threaten Hadoken. That's the kind of stuff you're talking about, right?
Yes, correct. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
threatening, that's always a good thing to threaten, I think, is, I can go above curve. If you don't have something above curve, um, you can try to strike into me, but I will probably interrupt you.
Right. And
Um,
so you
mhm.
can kind of use that to dissuade uh a strike, or if you really have the threat, and they take the bait, you clock them for it. Okay,
Yes,
I gotcha.
and that's something that I like to threaten, even if I don't have those options in my hand. So, stepping into range two, your opponent will think, oh, he's got Shoryuken, but that could just buy you some time to find the Shoryuken or whatever other tools you need. So, kind
Right.
of knowing where to step when during the game can help. Especially since you're drawing every time you use your unique action. Lets you cycle through your deck, maybe find options that you need, and dissuade the opponent from striking into your pretty decent options.
Right. Okay. I remember when I first started playing Exceed a couple of years ago, I picked up Ryu, and Ryu stepped way too much. I
Mhm.
never struck anywhere. I just kind of moved back and forth and tried to stay at a range
Mhm.
where my opponent couldn't hit me, and just eventually got kind of run over because they were being more proactive than me. So is there
Right.
any advice you can give about like when to go from jockeying for a defensive position? Maybe this might be something that we talk about a little bit more when we talk about his tools, actually, but
Sure.
going from jockeying to for a defensive position into converting it into offense. Like when is it time to strike with Ryu?
Right. Well, if I would say if you're in a good position, that's where the boosts come in. So he's got some pretty darn good boosts,
Mhm.
and season 3 is known for its boost wars. So Ryu can slap a boost down or two, and then with just one boost, your specials are good enough that you can break a lot of those break points, and initiate an attack that will probably be unbeatable if
Right.
if if no one's attacking, no one's doing anything or being proactive.
Okay. So you can you get to a spot, and this can probably be in sort of any order depending on the situation. But
Hmm.
step one, get to a spot where they can't contest you. Step two, leverage that indecisiveness or hesitation on their part to put a boost down. Step three, kill them.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep. And then rinse repeat, pretty much.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Quick rules question just for clarification here. So this move one is advance or retreat, not close. So if my opponent, excuse me, Mitsushori, if my opponent was right here, I could
Hmm.
just walk out of the corner for free, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a
Okay.
good deal.
Yep, definitely. Yeah. So that's 2 force worth of movement for nothing for a turn,
Yeah.
basically, and I'm drawing a card afterward.
Hmm.
Um, so when I'm kind of considering stuff like that, there's obviously a redundancy here. I assume that outside of really niche situations where like I'm trying to get rid of a known normal, I'm never going to be taking the move action to move one. Like that's on my character ability. I can do that for free, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you mean spending normals, a no normal from hand to move?
Yeah, to just to get some like what I'm saying is like I need to think of a specific reason to actually take the move action to move one rather than just use my character ability.
Right. Yeah.
So what about moving farther? Do you find yourself taking that move action more frequently, or because you have kind of built-in turn over turn movement, do you find that you don't need it very much?
I wouldn't. I typically don't, uh, because he's already got boosts that can kind of move him a decent amount, and you don't ever really need to move more than two, which we have on a boost here on Metso Shoryuken,
Okay.
which allows you to move two and then strike, which is nice. Or you have Quick Step, which allows you to move one, and then you can maybe use your ability to move another if you need to move again without
Right.
striking. So yeah, I don't usually spend cards from hand to move more than one or more than two if I need.
Okay. So,
I mean, rarely. There are definitely occasions, but I don't find myself doing that much
sure, gotcha.
because he has so much movement built into his kit.
So
Mhm.
this and the rest of his kit kind of also helps out with his economy a little bit because now you can spend your force on other things because your movement through your boosts or through your character ability is probably mostly taken care of. Is that
Right.
true?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes,
cool.
that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then what about I know we talked about uh Ryu is not really an absolutist character. My
Mm-hmm.
understanding is that very rarely happens
Yeah.
in Ryu play. So his exceed
Right.
mode, I I have heard that people are like struggling to find reasons to do this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, what is the value of this, and do you ever find yourself doing it?
Yeah, I could think of some time. I mean, it's definitely. I would say it's rare,
Okay.
definitely, because and I feel like why a lot of people might say that is because Gage is pretty good for the ults. Yeah.
Yeah, his ultras are very very good.
Yeah, definitely, and also crits. But yeah, mainly ults. I like extra Gage because I'm personally a fan of crit bluffing as well. So even if I may not hit, I'm just a big fan of that. So yeah,
Okay.
Gage is pretty good for a lot of other things. Um, but I would think I think flipping is pretty good for games that you think might go on long because of maybe the opponent's tanky. Like I'm thinking of Treasure Knight
Okay.
with all his recurring blocks. So eventually, you can if you and also if you're doing well and you get that 2 gauge pretty early. I don't know. It's worth considering, or maybe against a control character who's discarding a lot of your cards. That could be nice to have, so that you can move and then you draw two, so you're preparing and moving. It's
Right.
just more definitely over a long period of time can get you a lot of value.
Okay.
But
So
those are the kind of edge cases.
it sounds like it's the kind of thing that you do when your opponent makes you do it, not when you have free reign. When you have free reign, you just beat them up.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so this is your answer to like those really really grindy kind of taxi meta promo night games,
yeah,
where you're taxing your resources and you need to keep up.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. But otherwise, we can save that 2 gauge for critting and for using his crazy ultras.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes,
All right, that makes
indeed.
sense. That makes sense. And I assume that the kind of overall shape of the game plan, I stand where my moves are best, but also where my opponent's moves are worse, because I have that flexibility, and then
Hmm.
I beat them where they're weakest. Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty
Cool.
much.
Okay, cool. So pretty standard Shoto stuff. He's just got kind of a different shape of the Shoto kit then.
Right.
All right. I mean, it
Yeah.
might actually be better to say that everyone else has a different shape of the Ryu Shoto kit because
Hmm.
he's Mr. Shoto. He gets first dibs on that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So do we want to move into anything else about the character ability, or do we want to move into talking about the kit itself?
I'm down to talk about the kit.
Yeah, let's do it. Where do you
Let's
want to
do it.
start?
We can go from left to right,
Let's do it.
specials into ultras.
Sounds good.
Um, so yeah, the Shoryuken. So Shoryuken and Hadouken actually are two specials that they're the above curve specials, but they're only above curve once you have one gauge to crit.
Right.
Because without the gauge, Shoryuken can't close one, so it's just on curve if the opponent initiated at range 1. And then Hadoken is just a speed 4 fireball. But
Right.
with the crit, you get that speed 6, which is very nice above curve.
Mhm.
But yes, so this is where you would stand at range 2, and they would have to think twice unless they have a, you know, above curve option as well, or they could try to bait your Shoryuken too. That is a thing that you might do against a Ryu character. So you might play a sweep so that they just you win the trade versus a crit Shoryuken.
Right. And so this is
Mhm.
for catching offensive crosses, catching dangerous like 6-speed range 2 things like axe kick or something like that.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
you're using it as kind of a defensive check against some really scary stuff your opponent might be able to throw at you at that range, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Exactly.
that makes sense.
And even if the opponent with this special, even if the opponent does bait it out or win the trade with something slower, I still like to mash it if I know that they can't beat the speed, just because as a safe, it's kind of a safe option. Like, okay, I'll at least for sure hit. I'll at least for sure get 4 damage off, and that's always pretty good.
Sure, and
Um,
probably you're going to go in the situations you're using it. You're going to go at least gauge neutral in all likelihood because
mhm.
you're going to hit. Do you ever use it without the crit?
No, I mean, yeah, because without the crit, then you would probably be at range, playing it at range 1.
And you just lose
Um,
to an offensive grasp, and then kind of what's the point of having
right.
that speed? Okay,
Yeah, you don't really want to just lose this card willy nilly because it's you want to have that threat at range 2 and then use that threat at range 2 if you can, or if it works out that way. And also the boost is pretty good as well. The boost can be a game closer, a game ender, a checkmate
right,
sort of deal.
right,
So this isn't one that I would just throw at range 1
right.
for no reason.
And so going on to the boost, unless there's more tech to talk about for sure, you can itself.
Yeah, not right
Um,
now, but yeah,
so,
the boost.
overhead, as you said, game closer, ignore armor now strike means that if they've got 4 life left, it doesn't matter how many blocks they have. The next strike is probably just going to close it out.
Right.
Um,
hmm
and then add this boost to your gauge. So is this pretty exclusively used for a game ender, or is this something that you would use to also build up your resources and gauge in the early and mid game?
I don't really think of it as a gauge generation boost. That's sort of a secondary thing.
Okay.
But for the armor, not always a game using it for game-ending reasons. That could also help break, stuff like focus with your donkey kick.
Right.
So, sort of situations where you might read that you know, that they might have a response that can withstand some of your stuff. Or if you've kind of built up some boost, like a lot of power boosts, and you want to break sweep even, um, uh, and you know that you can break sweep, and so their only option would be to block.
Block or
So pretty much
focus. Right.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
to make there no way that they can withstand your attack, pretty much once
Okay.
you've kind of built up your boost. So this is definitely one of those boosts that you would play when you're trying to be that proactive player and like make something happen.
Okay. So I mean, going back to the question that I was asking before about how do you
hmm
convert a defensive position into an offensive one, where
Yeah.
you and I are playing, uh, we're boost warring, we're jockeying for position. I've got, you've got a fierce down. I've got some boost down to. We're going back
hmm
and forth. No, we're not. Now you're
Yeah.
hitting me, and there's not anything I can do about it anymore because you've decided to end it on your terms.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Okay,
Because
that makes sense.
boosting all that, committing all those boosts and then just having it blocked can be pretty bad for Ryu because
Definitely.
you really want to cash out on your stuff. So that's a great cash out boost.
Okay. So and this boost basically turns off one or two, you're probably not going to break a block with this. Your opponent just won't play it, right?
Hmm.
This
Yes,
is
that's right.
this is just there to dissuade them from playing the block or the focus in the first place, and
Hmm.
turning off an option that could beat your whatever crazy setup that you've concocted for yourself.
Right. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. So, uh, there's situations where I don't know, donkey kick. You already mentioned donkey kick, where and
Yep.
we'll get to this card, but it's already 6 power. Um, uh, if they're cornered, they can't cross out. They can't dive over it.
Hmm.
Um, it it can push sweep away. All you can do is focus it. Okay, that's a good time
Right.
to use overhead to get rid of that. So just when we're evaluating the use case for this boost, it's basically when you can use it to make your setup unanswerable. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
this is kind of the first instance that I might talk about how the how just the reuse kit existing can cause or give you sort of a lot of freedom with how you use these boosts. So, for example, with overhead, something that I do sometimes, as you said, if you're playing this, you are definitely signaling to your opponent that you're playing something that block against this or focus against this,
Mhm.
and I might be trying to cash out on some big power. But it's fun to also attach this to a grasp, right? They might cross out of what they think is something really slow, and that 6 power donkey kick or a sweep even.
Right.
But sometimes I do overhead grasp and catch their cross or something faster that they might, you know. It's kind of one of those like telegraph moves or telegraph boosts that you can kind of uh, psych the opponent out with.
Right. That makes sense. So, in the same anything in the same way that anything that really boosts up a mid speed is going to make the opponent play fast to try to avoid
Hmm.
uh, the obvious thing. Sometimes just means that you can get them with the not obvious thing.
Right.
Gotcha. That makes
Exactly.
sense. Okay. And so in terms of evaluating this card as a whole, um, it sounds like you're using both sides of it. You want to
Yeah.
maintain sure you can as a threat, but so maybe don't use both copies of overhead unless you can really get a lot of value out of it,
Right.
so that you have
Yep.
one to keep threatening.
Yeah.
Um, do you tend to favor one side of this card over the other, or is it really just completely matchup and situation dependent?
I probably would favor the attack, but just because the overhead I mean, but when overhead is good, it's really good, and it typically is good when the time is right.
Okay.
uh,
Nope.
but
That makes sense.
yeah, but I like I mean, yeah, having the sure you can always live is very good because once those are down, they're not too scared of you at range two. So,
Hmm.
just keeping it out is really nice.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's something I do wild swing and crit for sometimes, even if I think, I mean, if I'm wild swinging at range two, and I know I have at least one in there, I might just crit on top of the wild swing.
Right. And I assume specifically on defense you're doing that. This does not seem
Right.
like something that
Correct.
you're ever going to initiate with if you have a choice.
Yes.
Okay.
True.
Cool. All
Hmm.
right. Sounds good. Sounds good. And then you want to move on to Hadoken?
Yep.
All
So,
right.
yeah, yeah. This one's auto looping strats.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a very cool fireball. So actually, for this, because Hadoken exists, I sometimes do turn one, key charge just so it's online, and now everyone has to be scared, or your opponent has to be scared of your above curve fireball, because not much beats a 6 speed at range 4
Right.
right out of the gates. Yeah.
In a lot of matchups, outside of people with sort of like guardy defensive fireballs, or somebody with like
Hmm.
the fastest fast dive I've ever seen,
Yep.
um, uh, this can honestly shut down ranged play on its own. Just the threat of crit Hadoken, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly. Hmm.
Okay. And when you mentioned looping Hadoken strats, just to make it explicit for people who might not have been hit by this before, so the after
Yeah.
effect on this card if you hit, you're allowed to put it on top of your deck, and then you can wild swing it next turn or on defense.
Mhm.
And instead you just add something from your discard pile to your gauge. So
Yep.
you can just keep on hammering people with this over and over again over the course of the game if they don't
Mhm.
get out of range of it or something. Um,
Mhm.
so and like, is this strong enough to be like a win condition for Ryu? Like you just knock out their answers to Hadoken and then just spam it at them over and over again, or is there too much counterplay for that?
If your opponent doesn't have the Guardy Fireball, it could definitely be a great plan to get out of range of what they do have, because they if assuming they'd probably be a ranged 1 to 3 character,
Yep.
kind of back out and hit them with as many of these as you can. So like a defensive cross into Hadoken, and then they have to come back in, and then just that's definitely, it's something that you can definitely have over the head for quite a bit.
Okay.
The only downside with this attack is that it doesn't help you cycle through your deck, because
Hmm. You
it
keep
goes back
drawing it
right
over
on
and
top.
over again.
Yes.
I
So,
see.
if you're looking for some cool tools that because he's got a lot of them, you might even opt not to throw a Hadoken once in a while, and then kind of maybe move back, grab a couple more cards. But if it's free, free 4 damage is free 4 damage. So sometimes you'll find yourself in a position where it's like, this might be the best thing to do. Just kind of keep my opponent's not really doing anything about it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep hitting them with it.
Right. And so sometimes this could mean against some characters that they have to move in. They have to
Hmm.
spend force and run in on you.
Yeah.
At which point, one trap that I fell into on when I was first trying out Ryu was trying to hold this over their head for way, way longer than it was
Hmm.
actually relevant. Like if they're up in
Right.
your face and you're like, but I could get away maybe and throw it at them again later because I can keep looping it. Like don't I like I feel like getting it stuck in my head that I could loop Hadoken over and over again kind of limited my play with Ryu. So how do you
Right.
know when it's time to stop spamming fireballs and start brawling instead? Is it just when your opponent tells you it's time?
It depends on what you've got going on in your hand. I'm thinking of a situation where, sure, they might spend force to get to range 1, but you have something else in your kit, like 1 inch punch,
Hmm.
that if you use defensively and you really catch them off guard, you push them right back into auto range, and you can just smack them with it again.
Okay.
So it sort of depends. If I don't have 1 inch punch, they're at range 1. You kind of have to think a couple, turns ahead, especially playing as a defensive character. You're going to be thinking about, all right, what might they do, and after they do that, what can I hit them with? Um, since you're getting ready for a strike that's not on your turn, and then
Right.
likely you'll have a strike right after. So you
Right.
kind of have, you oftentimes, as where you get to chain, um, you know, 2 strikes, and really, um, you have a lot of positioning tools to kind of set yourself up, because a lot of these specials play into each other, as the 1 inch punch into Hadoken,
Right.
donkey kick into Hadoken.
Right.
You can, that it gives you the advantage, right? So if you're at range 2, you push to 4, you get the Hadoken going, right? So there's a lot of tools that can play into each other. A lot
Right.
of them are pretty good for that Hadoken plan. Um, but the boost on it is really good as well. So sometimes they'll rush to range 1. You don't really have a plan of how, you don't think that they're going to be out. You know that you don't think you're going to catch them out at range 4 again for a while. You can just boost defensive, and I think that's a great boost for the times that you can't really go for that auto play, because then they're up close, and then you have to stick with your close range specials, and adding that 1 armor onto 4 guard for like the donkey kick or tatsu
Right.
gets you to 5 effective guard, or damage that you can withstand, and that is a pretty significant thing. that can survive a lot of stuff. So
while also making the value of your next hit from that power just better. So you're just kind of
yeah,
making your deltas and your trading way better when you're
right.
going for that. Okay.
That +2 power is, with attached to most of these specials will break a focus. Like, +2 power on Donkey Kick breaks focus.
Right.
Uh, on 1-inch punch it breaks sweep, and
Right.
Tatsu it breaks sweep.
Right.
And focus, yeah. Or 1-inch punch breaks focus as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So.
if you Tatsu and they happen to play focus instead, well, you've got one more armor, so you're trading even better anyway. So you're still probably pretty happy about that.
hmm Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that makes sense. So it sounds like, you know, if you can predict a couple turns ahead a way to get back out to range and keep on chucking Hadokens at people, you can do that. But
hmm
maybe don't try to 4D chess your way to, 6
Yeah.
turns from now. There's a possibility that I could get out there. At that point, you're like, I'm just going to play the boost
hmm
and punch somebody with it.
Right. Yeah, you
Okay,
always have a second copy too, so
true.
and
Okay,
and you can cycle pretty well with Ryu, so yeah, you don't have to worry about it too much.
okay,
You'll get another opportunity to auto them. Um,
gotcha. That makes sense. So when you're going for this, is this something that you are really, really cognizant about? Kind of like with Shoryuken, are you really
Mhm.
cognizant about using your last copy of it because it's such a important dissuading tool to keep your
Yeah.
opponent from doing certain things? So like even if I've got the second copy of Hadoken in my hand, one of them's already down, this would be a good time to use defensive. But man, not having any Hadokens at all uh, could
hmm
give my opponent a chance to run away. Is that something I've got to be worried about?
So if defensive would really be good and help you with your game plan and like winning strikes, because in the end I think the most important thing is that you're kind of winning strikes, because Ryu can definitely do that and maybe even create unbeatable strikes. If defensive will help and you don't think you're going to Hado in a while, you just I'd say boost it. And I think Ryu's a character that does use the reshuffle action at very key moments, because he's
Okay.
got so much. He's got a lot of important tools in his deck that when they're down, you kind of start losing your danger,
Right.
your scariness.
Yeah,
So
even
yeah,
among the specials, there's not a lot of redundancy in this kit. Like 1 inch
right.
punch does not do most of the things that Shoryuken does. Even when
hmm
we extend that to the normals, like there are some characters who have like focus, and then one of their specials is like basically focus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There isn't a ton of that, and maybe 1 inch punch and sweep kind of feels a little similar sometimes, or
hmm
1 inch punch and focus or something. But it sounds like in general, when a tool is gone, you don't really have a backup for it because they're kind of specific.
Yeah, I'd
So
say so.
you're okay. So you're looking to when the time is right, you're looking to maybe recur some of those tools by reshuffling when you can.
Yes, the main ones that come to mind that I would reshuffle for. I mean, if it's okay to kind of go a little bit out of order with how we're
Please
talking
go
about.
ahead. Yes.
So Metsu Hado mainly beat for its boost, which we'll definitely get to, but that's definitely Ryu's most notable boost.
Yep.
When you have both of those down, it's like almost immediate reshuffle time,
Yep. Okay.
in my opinion. And same with Metsu Shoryuken as an alt if you have 4 gauge, because that is just a very good um, alt to threaten when you have that gauge. Hado and then Shoryuken as well. If they're both down because you want your above curve options, those are the scary ones. The rest, not so. So like if I run out of both donkey kicks, both tatsus, both 1-inch punches, I mean, that sucks, and it might make me think of reshuffling, but not as much as if I were down any of the other ones.
Okay. And you're thinking like, all right, well, I've got all of these are gone now. That sucks, but that means maybe I'll draw more of my Metsu Hadokens or something.
hmm
Okay, that makes sense. Cool. All right, so that's Shoryuken and Hadoken, and that's
Yep.
kind of his sort of like his iconic, uh, his two of his iconic cards. We'll get to Tatsu in a second, but let's go to
Right.
Donkey Kick.
Right.
Um,
hmm
this card hits really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. At 4 speed, six power at 4 speed is very nice.
Yeah.
And it lets you push stuff like sweep out of the way at range 2, which
Yeah.
is also a very notable thing. Yeah, this is a good one. And as I mentioned earlier, it chains into Hado pretty well. So if you're playing against an opponent who doesn't really have a good range 4 option against Hado, donkey kick into Hado is always great.
Right.
Also, if positioned where the opponent's in the corner, they can't cross out. So that's also good if you really want to get that, advantage chain going.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And also that 4 guard on it, at 4 guard and 4 speed, it tends to be enough like outside of certain situations like donkey kick, I guess.
Mhm.
That's fairly safe for
Yeah.
a card in Exceed. Like as you mentioned, as soon as you put another
Right.
piece of armor on it, it's very, very hard to stop this card. But even without it, it's
Right.
it's pretty tough to break through that.
Mhm.
Um, I guess the times that this would lose would be the times that a grasp would beat it by pushing it out of range or something like that. So it's
Right.
definitely not unbeatable, but it it's it's a surprisingly safe mid speed, I guess I'd say.
Definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
100%. And
Okay.
yeah, it's so good that, I mean, even though it's safe, I like to make sure I hit these because that power is pretty good. Sometimes I throw with Way of the Warrior up, it's on curve at range 2, and
And
also
beats
breaks Yeah,
focus. Yeah.
yeah. So that's if your opponent allows you to kind of stay at range 2 after you've boosted that, they're in trouble.
Yeah. There's not a lot of cards in the game, even with a boost on them, that beat both cross and focus.
Hmm.
That's an ultra, right? Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Hmm.
So this is definitely, is this kind of one of your default targets for your really good power and speed boosts? Is like as soon as you put anything on this, does it just kind of get unreasonable?
Um, it definitely, if I have Way of the Warrior, if I have yeah, and or like light, yeah, definitely. Just keeping it on curve, depends also. Like if they're against the corner, adding any power on it for sure is gonna be very good.
Right,
If
where
they
they
can't
can't cross
actually,
out.
yeah. So
Right.
right, like Ryu. The thing with Ryu that I find is that he's got so many tools to help you to make your attacks kind of unbeatable if the turn is passed back to you. So
Mhm.
kind of trying to get those unbeatable attacks going and then going for them, I think is important rather than kind of throwing them out because Donkey Kick puts you pretty close already. So you just need a boost right on top of it. Might as well try to do that before just throwing it out, unless it's a good time to. Sometimes you have to read the situation as well.
Right, but
Um,
if
yeah,
you can put something else
yeah,
on it to make it really, really good instead of
yeah,
just merely very good.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay. Before we go on to and one more thing about this, this also seems more like an offensive card than a defensive card for Ryu because he has that advantage
Right.
uh, based on it. So is this something that you're usually initiating with?
Yes, most of the time. The other times, if you're reading the an assault, it's a great response to assault
Okay.
because you get to steal
You
advantage and
you
also
you
push them
steal
back.
advantage back,
Hmm.
definitely, sure. So it kind of counters everything that they want to do, but it does require that hard read for them to be coming in from range 3 to do that.
Right. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, before we go on to the boost, there's actually something else that I wanted to ask about Hadouken that I completely forgot about.
Sure.
We've been talking a lot about Hadouken as being sort of your range 4 and range 5 option to deal with uh, people out at that range.
Hmm.
It's still above curve at range 3, right?
Yeah. Yep.
How frequently do you find yourself just mashing Hadouken that close up?
Um, I mean, if I'm at range 3 on the defensive and I'm unsure, sometimes just kind of like how you go for the Shoryuken, you can I mash it.
Okay.
I'm not ashamed to say, but just above curve attacks are just you get the damage in, you get to be sure of it, um, and you might lose a trade, but
Right.
sometimes you don't want to call the mix up, and Ryu kind of allows you to not really have to at certain ranges when you have the right stuff
Okay.
up.
And then you kind of get sort of like the option select where like if you stuffed their assault,
Hmm.
awesome, I'll recur it. If they manage to dodge you or get out, okay, well now I'll put it in my gauge instead, and you can sort of read the situation afterward or something.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Just
Okay, I got you.
yeah, definitely good to think about that kind of stuff because once again, the cycling can be important. Like if they came in after you autoed, okay, then keep it engaged and then find some other cards to deal with them at their current range now.
Gotcha.
Oh, also one thing I forgot to mention is, this is a pretty good crit bluffing card. So something I like to do is kind of make them think, like maybe I'll initiate with a crit, make them think I'm autoing, but I'm
And
doing
then
something completely different.
and probably spike them.
Yeah, yeah, something like
Yep.
that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of stuff. Or even I've done a lot of um, like range 4 ones. So if they do have the those slow fireballs, you can crit Hado, but you're actually diving in.
Oh,
Uh,
sure. Okay. Make them waste their answer to the Hadoken. Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
a lot of people don't like doing these kinds of things because you're spending gauge on something that doesn't need to that didn't actually need the gauge. But
Right.
in season 3, gauge is important for crits and ults and stuff. But
Right.
if you can fool them and also make them believe that you're down to do anything, that's a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the crit on Hadoken doesn't read +2 speed. Sometimes it reads make your opponent lose to spike.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's a good. I mean, that's a good crit effect.
Definitely.
Okay. That makes sense. And then, sorry, we were talking about Donkey Kick a little bit,
Hmm.
and you actually mentioned Key Charge as being a particularly good turn one combo to activate Hadoken, just
Yeah.
to get that gauge for free.
Mhm.
What else are you using Key Charge for? Because Donkey Kick seems like something that I want to keep to hammer people with.
Right. Well, I guess when you're at range, so Donkey is once you're kind of like in the middle of thing, like you're already in the thick of it. You're at range 2. Ooh, maybe you've got a boost going on. I like doing key charge at turn 1,
Okay.
just because it gets the a lot of those things live. You get your first gauge is important because you get Hado and you get Shoryuken. Another
Yep.
good time to do it is when you're at 3 gauge, so that you can thread in your Metsu Shoryuken.
Okay.
And
So
that's the ultimate threat at range 1.
gotcha. All right. So you're not doing it just to get gauge. You're doing it to get to specific gauge thresholds.
Yes, exactly.
And it's usually 1 or 4.
Yes. Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. And and every other time, probably you're mashing Donkey Kick because Donkey Kick is just really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Hmm.
You want to move on to Tatsu?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So tell me about. So this is his other kind of like this is the other Shoto tool. This is
Mhm.
the Hadoken, the Shoryuken, and the Tatsu are kind of
Yeah,
the trifecta. So tell me a little bit about this
right.
card.
This is what I would consider the safest in his kit, at least just or safer than Donkey Kick because you can at least hit back, or there's a definitely a higher chance that you'll hit with this because it's range
Right.
1 to 4, and decent amount of guard there,
Yep.
and does some good damage too, and gets you into that advantage chaining stuff. So can see it, when I was saying Ryu's got some good positioning stuff mid strike, you can kind of Tatsu at range 1 to get to cross over them to get into range 2, gain that advantage. Donkey Kick for another advantage chain into like a Hado or something like that. So you
Okay.
can
Yeah.
really jockey for position with his moves.
Right.
Excuse me.
That's all right.
Um,
Sorry about that. Um.
yeah.
Okay. So you're this is your cross catcher if you're predicting a cross out, but it's
Yep.
also an advantage chainer. It's also a consistent kind of easy to press button that
Yeah.
will probably hit and get you gauge, but
Hmm.
it's also a cornering tool or a get out of the corner tool. So there's a lot going on with this card.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely a
Okay.
lot of uses. Pretty safe.
Okay. And this is something it's not so for advantage, I'm probably going to be okay doing it on offense because I'm initiating with it. I'm going to get another turn afterward if it hits, but
Yeah,
also or if I cross over. But it also seems like a pretty decent defensive card because I might be able to catch an offensive cross or something like that.
yeah. More often
Um,
than not, it's probably going to be defense, unless you have a specific plan in mind
okay.
when you're initiating, where you're like, I think I can have a series or a chain of attack that will be pretty, useful or helpful, and will make them sad.
Right, which is the goal of every Exceed game.
True.
And just like with Donkey Kick, uh, uh, an opponent's assault coming into this card, you underspeed
Hmm.
them and you steal advantage back. But this one actually has the advantage of hitting at range 3, so you don't even really need to. The read doesn't need to be as hard on the assault as Donkey Kicks would have to be because it actually you're hitting them where they're currently standing where they'd be playing the assault, right?
Right. Hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
And this attack pairs really well with defensive as well. The defensive boost,
Okay.
because it gets that 7 power to break sweeps,
Yep.
and that extra armor is pretty nice on top of 4 guard.
Yeah. The speed guard relationship, like 3 is a little bit less than 4 for the speed. You might be running into
Hmm.
some slightly stronger special attacks that might be able to break that 4
Right.
guard more easily. Okay.
Hmm.
And then Swift is +1 power and +1 speed. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of ink has been spilled about the relative value of +1 versus +2 and plus
Hmm.
two versus +3 boosts in Exceed.
Right.
How useful is +1 power and +1 speed, and when is it at its best?
So yeah, +1 speed is pretty much just saying that you'll win the speed ties on defense.
Right, as
So
as though as though you
yeah.
were initiating.
Yeah, exactly. Which kind of plays into Ryu's game plan since he's down to pass typically. So the difference would be that 1 power. So that's kind of where it's kind of like you're adding 1 power to your next attack without necessarily passing up, the the speed curve
Right,
situation.
right, right.
And that +1 power can be pretty good. On Donkey Kick, that's that good
That's
seven
at
power.
7. Yep.
Yeah, or on top of a sweep. If someone tries to initiate with sweep, your sweep is faster and it breaks theirs. So
Okay,
stuff
that
like
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah, it's just kind of just more. It's just you're adding more, which is
Okay,
always good. Yeah, if you
okay,
find yourself, because as Ryu, you kind of just you want to keep escalating the situation as you pass it, and then eventually capitalizing on it. So that's definitely a good boost to do that with.
okay. That makes sense. And we actually haven't talked about EX attacks at all
Mhm.
in this whole lesson so far. But would this be
Yeah.
something that pairs well with them to kind of bump the power and speed? Because this is my
Yes.
understanding of Swift is that it's basically like Swift is like the more relevant half of an EX attack, but you can't
Mhm.
surprise people with it. It's 2 of the stats you get from an EX, so you do an EX on top of it. Well, now you've got both,
Yeah.
and that can be pretty crazy. Is that something that you go for a lot?
EX Tatsu.
No, so sorry. Swift on top of an EX
Oh,
attack.
Swift on top of an EX attack. Not
Yeah,
too. It's not something that I think about too much. So with Swift, it's kind. I feel like um, it's a good enough boost that if the turn passes to you, you can typically capitalize it with something that's above curve. Like if you have cross, or not cross, but like I guess wherever you're at, something that's not typically on curve will be on curve. So if you're at range 2, then you're threatening that. Sure, you boost Swift. It comes back to your turn. Then you can kind of you can play your assault at range 2 now. It kind of like it
okay,
changes what kind of if the turn is passed back to you after you boost that. Um, they should be scared because a lot of you can threaten a whole new bunch of specials.
right. So
Um,
range 3 dive, range 2 assault.
right.
You already mentioned Donkey Kick and Sweep as benefiting from it, but
Hmm.
It might not be as like obvious a use case, at least not obvious to me, at least, as
Hmm.
something like uh the +2 power on defensive or fierce or light or something like that.
Yeah, right. With defense, I guess the difference between if I'm comparing defensive and swift is uh, when it's your turn. In terms of, I feel like that speed really changes things for you when it comes back to your turn. Whereas
Right.
with defensive, you might not really strike immediately now. Still, you might
Right.
boost something on top of it if the
Okay.
turn was passed back to you. I feel like Swift kind of plays into that. I'm about to capitalize. Are you gonna attack on your turn with my Swift up? And are you sure about it? Because I have a lot of above curve options probably at this range. And then if you don't, then I can do something on curve but devastating.
Right. Right. Okay. And this is more of a of part of the boost war sort of salvo. You're boosting this in conjunction with other things,
Hmm.
uh, or if the turn is passed back to you, you might not use that turn to strike. With Tatsu, or I'm sorry, with Swift, you're actually more likely to press the advantage when you have it, because if you pass the turn back again, they might not give it to you a second time.
Yeah, and when
Okay.
exactly, and when I'm thinking about ranges that might change for these things, Swift is definitely that +1 speed is more relevant the further. I mean, definitely not as much as at range one. Defensive, I would say, actually can be relevant at range more relevant at range one than Swift. So
Right.
this is so these some of these things that I'm thinking about, I've not actually theorized in my own head. They're just things
Right.
that I've kind of like that I do, and but so now that we're talking about it, I'm sort of as we talk kind of having these moments where I'm like, oh yeah, wait, this is something that I'm noticing and I'm putting to words for like the first time. But
Perfect. Yeah, I think that means the system is working.
yeah, no, definitely.
Wonderful.
Um, so that's something that I'm noticing, or that I'll make a comment on is that um, you know defensive might be a boost that you actually capitalize on. Uh, but that would typically be if you're at that range one where it's kind of safer to do so. Swift, if you boost it and you're at range two or three, then you have stuff because it's at range ones the extra speed doesn't do much for you. But when you're at range two or three, you have stuff like spike or dive, right? So at range three, your speed four dive that's kind of below curve becomes a speed 5 dive, and now it's on curve, and you will dodge their attack if you attack
Right.
with it. And then spike is, it's still a little not super safe, but you could definitely go for it.
Okay.
But yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And then, by playing this boost, as you mentioned, you are passing the turn to your opponent. So you do need either the threat or the actual, actually being able to leverage something above curve with that +1 speed to stop them
Hmm.
from punching you in the first place. So,
Right.
if you're at range three trying to set up on curve dive, but they punch you, um, you hope for an above curve assault or something that you're
Right.
trying
Yeah.
to dissuade them with. So
Hmm.
kind of take the speed value of the thing that you're threatening to make on curve and
Yeah.
add one to it, and that's what you're trying to threaten them with on their turn.
Yes. And then if they
Gotcha.
do strike sooner, and if you're in a situation again where like you're at range two and you've got your Shuriken live, and you mash it and it turns out they were baiting you, it's still you get that +1 power, so it's still a nice trade. Like
Yep.
Swift, so yeah, you that +1 power makes it so that you're kind of okay if they attack you. You it's a decent trade no matter what.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
That all makes sense. And so
Mhm.
again, I mean, as is becoming common, it sounds like this is something that you sometimes you'll use this card as Tatsu, sometimes you'll use it as Swift.
Yes.
It doesn't really seem like correct me if I'm wrong, that
Mhm.
well, actually, as you mentioned, you really want copies of Shoryuken and Hadoken and your ultras before you want them like they're worth reshuffling over.
Yeah.
Tatsu, it doesn't sound like you're like saving explicitly, so maybe that frees up
No.
Swift a little bit, or maybe it frees up the other copy of Tatsu a little bit to strike with.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
you're not holding it over your opponent's head quite as much.
Hmm. Right.
Gotcha. Okay,
Exactly.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's do 1 inch punch then.
Cool. Yeah. So this is a another ignore armor situation in the kit.
Hmm.
Its range is definitely the most limited of in the kit, but it's got some good deltas with the potential, 2 armor, 6 guard, and then the 5 power.
Yep.
So I like to use it if I'm kind of unsure what's going on at like range 1, or just in certain situations where I can make use of that armor. I do typically crit it
Okay.
because it's kind of nice as a defensive option.
Mhm.
Or anticipating assault ends and then you push them back out, and then on your turn you get to Hado, stuff
Auto
like
gem.
that.
Yep. Okay.
hmm
That makes sense.
And I'm not too sad if I'm grasped out of it. If I critted it for armor,
You're
then
right.
you take 1
You
damage.
you took 1 damage and had to take a new position and you misgauge, but it's one
hmm
damage.
hmm
Okay. So the ignore armor on this combined with the 5 power is still not enough to beat focus, correct? Because
Right.
focus has 5 guard and some armor, so
hmm
you're not natively breaking that.
Right.
Um, is focus an important enough consideration to Ryu that this is something that you would be explicitly trying to boost up with some extra power in order to deal with focus, or is it just kind of the cost of doing business that this card can't beat focus?
I don't think of trying to make this. This is one of the cards, maybe one of the couple of instances in his kit that I don't try to make like some crazy unbeatable attack. So I
Right.
don't really boost for this card. And even if it hits a focus, you're ignoring the armor on focus, so I think it's still
Yep.
pretty valuable.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
You take 5 if they're or you deal 5 if you're critting it, they're dealing 2.
yeah,
Um, could be worse.
right.
You're not pushing them, which is you might make you sad, but
hmm
trading up on focus is already pretty rare.
Right. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's pretty
Um,
much it with that one. It's really just kind of damage through. Obviously, the happiest time, you know, for you to use it is if they played block and you're like, all right,
yep, sounds good.
goodbye.
Uh, yeah, and especially I mean in situations where I can't imagine what they would be trying to block at range 1.
hmm
That they're trying to bait out something, but that's
Right.
a good call out.
hmm
Um, and then what about quick step? So move 1, regain your action. It's like fast forwarded reuse character ability.
Right. It's definitely a good way to kind of break up, like if the opponent is really on their footsie game and they're trying to follow you as you move with your action and you can't seem to get to that range that you like.
Right.
Uh, that's a good tool, as well as lightning reflexes. Those are the tool kind of those boosts that can kind of get you that unexpected positioning and then surprise your opponent with a thing or two.
Right. And most of the time, my understanding is that even though it says regain your action, uh, do you tend to find yourself striking with that additional action more often than like boosting or something like that?
Um, it could be, yeah. It's there's definitely a lot of situations where I'm trying to think if it would be most. I'm trying to think of what else I might do. Um, Yeah, I feel like sometimes I've even like chained them. The thing is, when whatever you're doing with reuse stuff, it's kind of like all you always, at least when I play, just trying to get to that end goal of doing something that they can't beat or setting something up that is scary for them. So, sometimes you might, if you're at range 2, maybe you'll quick step into your unique. So quick step into range 3, and then use your unique action to range 4, just to get that Hado threat, maybe. And then maybe buy you some time. So kind of just get
Right.
back into just continue your game plan of scaring them or preparing for something big. Um, you might quick step to range 2 and then boost Wave of the Warrior, right? Basically, the boost is going to help you kind of turbo your game plan by one action.
Gotcha. Okay. And same question as most of the previous cards. Is this something that you find yourself boosting with more often than using 1 inch punch?
I'd say pretty equal, and
Okay.
yeah, just like with the rest of the kit, it's kind of like really dependent on the situation, and there's a lot of different situations that can come up when you're playing Exceed. So, uh,
Definitely.
the yeah, and each of that's kind of why when I see his kit, I'm like each special. Like these are definitely my favorite specials in the game. Like there's not a single one that I'm like this is bad and I will avoid it.
Right.
They're all like the shapes are just to me what I think are just super like baseline and like perfect even.
Yeah.
Um, so they'll all have its uses, and same with the boosts. I feel the same way about the boosts. They kind of work perfectly with the kit as well. So you'll find yourself. I mean, at least I find myself using them equally. Like, okay, there's this. It's time to 1-inch punch right now. Oh, it's time to quick, and I don't really find myself using one more than the other.
Okay. Yep. So remaining flexible, just as we're kind of finding the theme here, it's important to Ryu to make sure that you're using every part of his kit. Um,
Yeah,
so how about we start talking about his ultras here
yeah,
with Metsu Haruken,
hmm
notably good card.
yeah, definitely. Above curve, a range 4 to 5, and hits that 7 damage,
Mm-hmm.
and allows you to reposition, which we
Yep.
know that is very nice.
Yep. So
Um,
this could be if something somehow survives it, you can dodge their counterattack. You can get to a range where you can keep
right.
threatening the rest of your kit.
hmm
Uh, that's a so I mean that's 7 damage and two two spaces of movement for 3 gauge is a pretty great deal.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I know a lot of people don't use this all too much because the boost is super noteworthy,
Yeah.
and very good, and because your other alt is super good too to hold gauge onto.
Yep.
So, so I feel like most people would say that this is a boost,
Hmm.
as good as the alt is. And I would agree because, well, not I mean, kind of agree. Because when Metsuhado is good, it's good, and you just throw it out, and
Right.
you should be happy about it. But
Right. 7 damage
but-
at 5 speed at that kind of range band is pretty tough to say no to.
right, yeah,
Right.
pretty much. But you can make even crazier attacks, I suppose, with
Yeah.
Way of the Warrior.
Yep.
Um, so it's kind of definitely base it on the situation.
Okay.
But yeah, as I said, the Way of the Warrior is pretty darn good. In the kit, it gets a lot of these attacks to be unbeatable. And it's something that I reshuffle for if both are down.
Okay. So you're getting 2 to 4 probably unbeatable strikes a game out of Ryu, except that in all likelihood your opponent is saving things like tech for
Yeah.
this boost in
hmm
particular. So
Right.
you're and it's expensive, so you're losing more on that tech than they are.
right.
Um, so this seems like it's important enough to his game plan, Way of the Warrior, that we should go into it a little bit more. So you mentioned Donkey Kick as being on curve 8 damage at uh at range 2, which is
hmm
unbelievably good with
Yeah.
advantage on top of it.
Yeah.
What other cards are you really looking to staple Way of the Warrior to make them unreasonable?
I mean, Tatsu's kind of nice with Way of the Warrior. You get that 7 damage also.
Okay.
I mean, the normals, I would say most notably normals, though. Because, that range 3 spike,
Yep.
on
Dive
curve spike,
spike.
dive, yep.
Okay. So
Um,
um yeah, I mean I guess and it would be those mid speeds in particular, right? Like if
yeah.
your grasp is not breaking sweeper focus anytime soon with even with
Yeah.
Way of the Warrior on it. Okay.
hmm
Sounds good. All right. Basically everything that could benefit from power and speed benefits from power and speed.
Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
even if you are close and you do have your grasp or you're sure you can, I mean, once again, like sometimes you got to take your safe bets, and
Yep.
if you know you can go over, above speed, and you're And that's the good thing about if you're against Ryu, kind of initiating those strikes as much as he is a defensive character and wants you to strike into him. Sometimes, especially when they have speed, you kind of want to make them unsure, and they might mash their above curve options, and that might work out well for you because you'll outtrade them with whatever you baited it out with. If it's those slow things. But you could also get crushed if they call you out for it. But
Right.
it's
Right.
one way to play against all these boosts.
Right. And like because of the kind of quality of his kit, he's going to make you call his mix-ups. He's either going to
Hmm.
take the safe bet every time and just kill you with value, or
Hmm.
make you do dangerous things so he can capitalize on really, really big, brutal hits.
Yep. Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. And then anything else on Metsu Hadoken?
Nope.
Okay. And then finally, Metsu Shoryuken. Um, the the fastest, so a above curve at range 1, 7 damage for 4 gauge, but only if the
Yeah.
opponent initiated the strike. Okay. So
Hmm.
tell me about Metsu Shoryuken.
So this is kind of a reason to, save up to 4 gauge, and probably why people don't exceed immediately
Right.
or spend their gauge willy-nilly. Um, just because once you have 4 gauge online and this is going on, you're pretty much you'll see a lot of players, run up to range 1 and just hug the opponent um,
Right.
for the rest of the match
Right.
until they can kind of break out and do their own thing with like boosts and all that good stuff. Because yeah, it's a pretty legitimate threat with being above curve at range 1 and then also hitting like the truck. So
Yeah. So
um, yeah.
my experience with Metsu Shoryuken, again, new player talking here, especially when I was first starting out, is that I would get the 4 gauge, I would get to range 1, and then just basically sit there for 5 turns, 10 turns, being like, hit me. Please hit me. Please hit me. I
Mhm.
didn't know how to convert the threat of Metsu
Mhm.
Shoryuken into letting me do other things, right? Like I'm at range
Yeah.
1 now. I want you to hit me, but you won't, so I'll just hang out, right? I
Mhm.
didn't have it I didn't have the game knowledge to be able to turn that into a better thing to do. So
Right.
when you're threatening Metsushiro you can at
Mhm.
range 1, what else are you doing um to take advantage of your opponent's hesitance to strike into you?
You're definitely boosting at range 1, and if you have Metso Shoryuken in hand, then that means you have its boost in hand as well, and that it allows
Mm,
you to break out, and they think you're at range 1, but you're actually at range 3, and then you threaten. So, for example, if you boost, Way of the Warrior at range 1, and they're like, okay, whatever. I mean, they could strike at you, right? Because at range 1, plus speed doesn't mean too much. But if
right.
they don't, then you can even hit them with the Metsu, honestly. The on
Right.
curve, 7 speed, 9 power. So I don't know. And if you're not down to boost Wave of the Warrior at range 1, you have a bunch of other boosts like defensive. But yeah, you're pretty much building up your threat again. And if they're not taking the bait on Metsu Shoryuken, um, then you can bust out and do something proactive with whatever boost game that you've created.
So even with Metsu Shoryuken in hand and the gauge to
Mhm.
play it, lightning
Yeah.
reflexes back out again if they're not taking the bait is something that you should be doing.
If it's a good move, I mean, if you've got like if you boosted Swift, if I have Way of the Warrior up Swift, I mean, I might just back out, get that free spike.
Right. Okay. And
It,
I mean, you're at that point, you're doing you with you're doing 8 damage anyway.
yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
so okay, that's an ultra.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And but so otherwise, and eventually they're going to have to punch you if you're just sticking at range 1 the whole time.
Mhm.
Um, and you know the things that even trade with Metsushiro can are block and focus.
Mhm.
So is this important enough that you're like actively trying to bait those out throughout the game so that Metsushiro can has like clean targets, or are you just kind of playing this when you can?
Um, Yeah, I'm not really. I wouldn't say I'd bait out for Metsu really,
Okay,
because
sounds good.
there's. I mean, them being down both foci and both blocks is just. I mean, a lot of these things, a lot of his kit will kind of already force them out anyway.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's kind of a matter of like, oh, do they not have it? Okay, cool. And then
All right.
you might go for it.
That makes
Um,
sense. And then
mhm.
so lightning reflexes, other than when you're actively threatening it, now it's time to back up. They're not taking the bait. I'll kill him with Metsu Hadoken or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, it sounds like this is just another way to proactively end a boost war in your favor. The same way that overhead
Yeah,
was, you are jockeying for position stats wise or
right.
positioning actual positioning wise, and then suddenly you pounce on them and you hit them with something that they can't deal with.
Right. Yep. Like pretty classic to just go out of range and do your Hado. So if
Yep.
you're like boost warring out range 1 to 3, all of their boosts don't matter anymore if they can't.
If they can't hit you.
Yeah.
Okay. And is same question as always. So it sounds like this one is usually a boost, but should be an attack maybe that your opponent has to respect a little bit more often than people think it is. Is
hmm
lightning reflex is something that you're willing to play over Metsu Shoryuken a lot, or are you really really gunning for Metsu Shoryuken?
Only when I can cash out on something that's 100% and big.
Gotcha. Okay.
Otherwise, having that threat is always really good.
Okay.
But yeah, so
That
it's
makes
that
sense.
balance between like threatening and then actually getting stuff done. And you can't. So with the Hados and the Metsu Shoryukens, you can't just like hope the entire time. You've got to get stuff going as well.
Gotcha.
But they definitely help to hang over their head. But you still need to actually get stuff done.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. So that is the kit, and we've also sort of talked quite a bit about sort of nuances of his game plan. Like we've sort of discussed like the philosophy that you need to have by going between threatening and attacking with Ryu and stuff.
Yeah,
Um, so a couple more questions that I have before we wrap this up. One of
sure.
them you mentioned crit bluffing, and you
Yeah.
mentioned that Hadoken is in particular is a good way to bait out some defensive options from your opponent. Any
hmm
other like tech, any other crit bluffs,
Yeah.
any other like specific combos of cards that are notable?
Let's see. Well, in terms of crit bluffs, Hado's definitely the most effective for it. No one's gonna really believe in an initiate crit bluff or crit at range 2 and think it's sure you can.
Right. Yeah.
Because of
Especially because like you cannot crit bluff on defense.
right.
Like
hmm
that's not how bluffing works.
hmm
Um, they have
Yeah.
to you have to do it first. Okay.
hmm
And 1 inch punch. It seems like it doesn't really change the dynamics enough of a strike to really be powerful as a bluff.
Yeah, I mean, if only if you think that, I mean, if the opponent might be, holding something that's 7 or 8 power over your head, you
Mhm.
could kind of make them think that um, you're playing 1 inch punch to kind of, withstand it, so they won't play it, but you're actually playing something that disrespects the ult entirely,
Gotcha.
or
Okay.
whatever that threat was entirely. So that's an
That makes
example.
sense.
hmm
That makes sense. Okay, but for the most part, if you're crit bluffing, it's probably for a Hadoken play to spike him or dive him or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
That's kind of where it comes in.
Sounds
And
good.
then the I guess the overhead into something that's actually not that crazy, like a grasp. That's something I do sometimes. It's just
Gotcha.
funny.
Yep. Yep.
And might catch
Um,
them.
there's a there's another one thing that I've heard from other Ryu players, like shout out to my friend Moriarty,
Yeah.
who really loves the advantage chain that Ryu
hmm
can do. So,
hmm
and you alluded to this a little bit, but just to make it explicit,
Yeah.
between Donkey Kick, uh, Tatsu, and maybe an assault thrown in there somewhere, you have quite a bit of advantage built into your kit on some pretty high damage specials.
Yeah.
Um, I remember when when Taxi was teaching me how to play Exceed quite a while ago
Mhm.
now, he mentioned that if you have one gauge and can like Tatsu into Donkey Kick, well, now you have enough gauge to Metsu Hadoken them, and you just dealt 20 something damage to them over a couple of turns. Is that a line of play that you tend to go for? Like, is that powerful enough that I should be considering it as sort of like a combo, or
Yeah.
do you prefer kind of a slower paced game?
Um, with Ryu, I prefer to make some pretty safe, sometimes unbeatable attacks. And as the game goes on, that gets a little easier to figure out with the threats going down, or with their options going down.
Right.
So there could be a time in a match where Tatsu into Donkey Kick into Metsu is probably there's a low chance that they could contest that chain because
Right.
it's not you can it's not a very foolproof combo
Right.
because there's ways to break it.
Every single one of those cards has some kind of counter that deals with the thing that you're trying to play next. Like if they
Hmm.
happen to cross out of your Tatsu, you don't get advantage. If they happen to
Right.
sweep you, you lose the card that you were going to play. So there's
Hmm.
definitely holes that you'd have to account for before you
Right.
go for it. Okay.
Yeah, and I just find it to be a shame with Ryu's kit to like lose any um
Consistency.
yeah, or just any strike at all. To be honest, like I do believe like he can every single strike he can either trade or win it.
Gotcha.
Um so and that's what I kind of try to strive for
Eh,
with him.
Okay, and you're setting up situations where you can do that at like
Mhm.
proactively rather than
Right.
going for the risks. Okay. No,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. It sounds like that's the kind of thing that Ryu would go for. And then
Hmm.
the only other question that I had, I guess there's two more really. Number one is some kind of more economic concerns. So we've talked about
Hmm.
like every one of his uh, every tool in his kit is useful for something. Um,
Hmm.
at some point, actually, we talked about movement too, and how that kind of helps his economy. But at some point, you're probably going to have to, change cards or something.
Hmm.
Spend force for something. Are there any particular cards that you find yourself being more willing to spend as force than others, or is it really just situation dependent?
Um, I feel like when I think about the games that I played with you, I really feel like I've just gone with the flow of the deck. Although I guess with stuff like it's I guess it's matchup dependent. For example, if they don't have that slow fireball and they really are vulnerable at beyond range, 3,
Right,
then you might want to start looking for that Hado.
right,
So you might start digging. Maybe kind of like dragging things out a little bit, like doing kind of that move around footsies while you draw, or even change cards. I don't find myself changing cards too much because, as I said, like these are really good.
yeah,
Usually, like in a kit, you kind of like, oh, I don't need this right now. You throw it away. But all of these are like really good at, in a lot of situations. So um, I just find myself maybe just stalling a little bit, or like for the Way of the Warrior boost. Like if you don't see any of those early, you might want to kind of wait around for those.
start
Yeah.
digging a little bit more.
Yeah, and
I gotcha,
but
I
and
gotcha.
the other thing though that I like is just threatening things, and I mentioned this maybe a little earlier, is just threatening it even if you don't have it in hand. He's a great
Mm,
character to do that with because he's got that Hado that everyone knows about, that Shoryuken that everyone knows about, the Metsu Shoryuken that everyone knows about. So if you have 4 gauge and you're standing at range 1, you don't even have it. They probably won't strike you even if you had absolutely no response to some of their bigger threats that they might play if you didn't have Metsu Shoryu live.
right.
So That's why I think, and change cards can really maybe show the opponent that you don't have what you need. But I think when you're Ryu, you kind of always want to seem like you have what you need.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, or at least that's how I play.
And
Um,
that actually kind of speaks to the reshuffle thing you were talking about earlier too. Like as soon as you can't maintain that threat anymore, it's time to make them start be worry start worrying again that you might really have the Metsu in your hand or something like that.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The threat is
Okay.
pretty important. So yeah,
Okay.
reshuffling to get those threats live. Obviously, something like Hado could easily be you could be discovered to not have that in hand pretty early if if they check you for it.
And
So
you just don't hit them.
yeah,
Right.
if you did not play an on curve Hado at range 4 or 3, it's like all right, you don't have it,
You
or
don't have it.
you allowed
Got it.
me to attack and I didn't play it, and you
Right.
didn't play it.
Got it. Got it.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, for the most part, there are tools that you want to kind of search for, but I don't ever find myself looking too hard because a lot of these can already get you going as
Mhm.
you play, and you have a lot of tools to maybe like cycle through, and just the threat of even having them can give you enough time to actually find them.
Got it. No, that makes perfect sense. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
And then finally, actually, first, any other sort of random tidbits that you want to give about Ryu and piloting Ryu before I transition to the sort of last question and closing us out here?
Uh, yeah, just crit bluff more.
All right,
That
perfect.
is my advice with
I will
Ryu.
take it.
Yeah.
So finally, I like to close this out with so you what we've done over the last hour and change is
Mhm.
describe the Ryu things that Ryu likes to do. And my opponent is going to be knowing about those things, and they're going to be employing countermeasures to deal with them, to stop me from doing all of my Ryu things. I'm the
Yeah.
Ryu player. What is my opponent doing to try to stop me, and how am I playing around those pieces of counterplay? And I know that the answer to that question is basically, that is a very very open ended question, and it's
Hmm.
probably impossible to answer without going into individual matchups. But are there any
Right.
weaknesses that they'll be trying to exploit that I can try to patch up or anything like that?
Um, they'll definitely hang on to tech for your Way of the Warrior.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know. It could be worth baiting stuff out with people like teching lights as well. So if
Hmm.
you boost light, they'll tech that, and then you just boost Way of the Warrior, and that's kind of the funny little um, progression.
Right.
Uh, or just make them dive somehow with during a strike. But it's probably easier to just bait out their techs.
Right.
And I guess I was talking a lot about bluffing and like just keeping the threat up, but also make sure you have stuff that you can you have uh, you can back it up. You can back up your boosts. You don't
Right.
just play
Oh,
them.
sure.
Yeah,
At some point, you're going to put down defensive in a situation where you're trying to threaten something, and your opponent will be like, "All right, I'm calling that," and then punch you
exactly.
anyway.
Yeah.
Make sure you have the thing sometimes.
Yes, yes. We can't be
Gotcha.
pretend forever. You got,
Gotcha.
and
Gotcha.
even if it's not the most ideal card that you would have liked to play with a boost, still have something that would work. Because
Hmm.
that's what I think they might try to do against the Ryu game is, call it, and just go like, all right, well, let's do it. And there
Right.
is something to gain especially
So
like stuff with Swift or even Way of the Warrior. You have people ballsy enough to strike into it, and
yep.
you might not have anything super great.
Right. So be ready to cash out as Ryu. Be ready to cash out with a lower value but more consistent option if your perfect summon Exodia strike is still one boost away and they're not giving you time to set it up.
Hmm. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Uh, so as as far as I'm concerned, I am now a Ryu expert. I know everything there is to know about this character. Um,
Well, I mean,
I,
you got to get in there. It's kind of like swimming. You can't just really read a book on how to swim and then expect to.
you've got to
Uh,
go. You've got to go play some games yourself.
Yeah,
I,
yeah. Play
I,
play some video games.
I guess I can't just keep interviewing Exceed experts forever. I guess I'm going to have to play one of these days.
That would
All
actually
right.
be pretty interesting, kind of like a follow up to each video with just you playing playing the character and just seeing how
Right.
that
Yeah.
that
Just seeing how it
unfolds.
goes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, like, listen, there's a lot of characters in Exceed, Snake. I'll see how I
right.
feel about this game once I've done 120 of these guides.
Fair enough.
Um,
No, it's a cool thing that you're doing.
I'm really excited to do it, and thank you so much for being a part of it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And for everybody else who's been watching, thank you so much for your attention and your time. I hope you learned some things about Ryu. Go out and play him. Go crit bluff. Um,
Yeah.
until next time, and Snake, until I talk to you again, thank you all so much, and I'll see you later. Bye,
Goodbye.
everybody.